From monoliths to microservices, client-server to cloud-native. And now, AI-native architectures are reshaping everything we thought we knew about computing. Through every transformation, one truth persisted: great infrastructure just works. The best technology is transparent to users. The best platforms are intuitive. They empower possibility with the necessary guardrails to keep us out of trouble. They let developers innovate, data scientists experiment, and businesses accelerate without worrying about what's underneath. And in a world where data sovereignty, predictable economics, and control matter, private cloud has never been more strategic. Today's AI revolution needs the same excellence, but now at an exponential scale. Agents that learn continuously, AI analytics that run at the edge where the data lives, workloads that appear, execute, and vanish in milliseconds. Welcome to the new age of virtualization. Your infrastructure, your rules, your private cloud.
Here is today's reality. Enterprises are turning to their private infrastructure to run their AI and keep their data, their models, and IP secure and compliant. Because of this, at Broadcom, we are delivering the most advanced AI-ready private cloud platform that is both cost-effective and secure. And through our NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel partnerships, customers can power both their mission-critical applications, that is VMware Cloud Foundation, with proven infrastructure economics for the AI era.
We didn't start from scratch. We took infrastructure that is powering the world's critical systems and evolved it for AI. That's the new era of virtualization. Faster compute, seamless integration, intelligent orchestration, complete visibility. That's VMware Cloud Foundation.
VMware Cloud Foundation delivers one universal platform. All apps, all workloads, traditional, cloud native, and yes, AI in all its permutations. Customers need security, they need compliance and governance to be foundational, not bolted on, but baked in from day one. With VCF, you have it.
AI is transforming all aspects of IT, from the apps and data we serve to the infrastructure we operate. It's also creating new silos, which can lead to an increased infrastructure and energy costs. This makes virtualization more strategic than ever. AI on VCF gives you greater privacy and control, simplified operations, and a far better TCO, all on your private cloud. The first age of virtualization changed computing forever. The new age, it's powering the AI revolution.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining all across the world. This is an awesome event, and we have a lot of agenda packed up here. We've got tremendous response to this webinar, which we call a super webinar event. Over 12,000 registrants for this event. So it looks like an Explore event, to be frank. So we are pretty pumped and excited to be sharing with you on all the awesome innovations that we're releasing with VCF 9.1. We got a packed agenda, as I mentioned. Private cloud is gaining momentum, especially in the last couple of years, as we see AI moving from pilot to production. And now private cloud is the preferred platform for running your production workloads. So this, while it's a big opportunity, AI is also a cost and a risk multiplier. So we're going to discuss around what the AI opportunities and trends are and how VCF 9.1 really helps you accelerate the momentum for your production AI environments. 9.1 brings three big areas of innovation that we're going to highlight. Number one is these rising infrastructure costs, memory, servers, storage, networking, you name it. So what are we doing in terms of key capabilities to help you drive efficient infrastructure and operations at scale? Number two, as most of your organizations are building AI intelligence into your existing applications, are building new AI native applications, how can the platform engineers and DevOps provide all of the runtime platform services, the data services, the storage services required for building, running, provisioning these AI applications at scale and in a cost-efficient manner? So all the key innovations there will be unpacked for you here. And finally, the 3 V's of security that I call it, right? The volume of attacks, the AI-driven cybersecurity attacks, the velocity in which you are seeing the attacks is getting crazy. So how do we handle in this AI-driven cybersecurity world? How do you handle these threats? How do you detect these threats? How do you harden your infrastructure and recover quickly from these threats is going to be another key area of focus for you. So a lot to unpack and cover here. So with that, let's move into the first chapter on what is the AI opportunity and the risk, and how can VCF 9.1 really help you accelerate that momentum. So to talk more on that, I'm going to pass it over to Paul Turner, our Chief Product Officer for the VCF division. And he is joining us live from Munich. Paul, over to you.
Hey, great to be on. And gosh, I'm really having a lot of fun actually watching almost like a World Cup of flags over on the right-hand side of the screen. So kind of enjoyable to see. But let's jump into it. This is my kind of favorite part of the year, because this is us releasing innovation. I mean, this is what we are all about. This is what Broadcom was about. This is what VMware was about for all of our history. Innovation is at the core of our being. And one of the things we're looking at right now, and the focus for this release and as we go forward, is we're looking at the opportunity for AI. We just took private AI, we built it into VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation. We announced that at Explore back in August. We've continued to enhance that. And why? Because you've got stats like this. So look at this, PricewaterhouseCoopers, productivity growth for AI exposed industries 4 times higher than other traditional industries. A 27% growth in revenue per employee if you actually drive AI innovation into the core of what you're doing. And it's not just those stats, right? 40% reduction in decision time. We can actually make faster, smarter, and then smarter decisions. But also you've got agentic AI, and I think it's still at the cusp. Well, what is agentic AI? It's actually harnessing the power of all of these generative AI kind of capabilities and effectively the data of the web, and using that to actually to bring business change and actually use the data that you already have inside in your enterprise. What that means is it's going to bring generative AI into the enterprise, and you're going to use it to actually complement those existing applications that you already have. But more on that to come. The challenge, though, is AI is not just an opportunity. AI is also a cost and risk multiplier. And, I'll start with kind of the top one. If you look at security incidents, I mean, this is a stat, 73% of enterprises report they have already seen security-related incidents due to AI. So these are enhanced AI. The whole nature of AI is that it's actually incredibly good at dealing with massive amounts of data sets and actually being able to build, phenomenal probabilities into, what's the best answer and the best outcome, which is also what you need to do when you're actually looking at trying to hack into systems. So, you don't have to look too far in the IT press headlines to see noise about, Anthropic and Glasswing. How we bring, if you imagine an AI hacker, how do we bring control to our security, to our infrastructure? And that's what we're going to share today. In 9.1, we're building in the capabilities to actually enhance the security provenance of your enterprise and build on the foundation that you already have. The second is about total cost of ownership. It's really about bringing down cost. Servers are getting expensive, and AI means GPU-enabled servers. A GPU-enabled server is generally about 3 times the cost. 2 CPUs, 2 GPUs, just for inferencing, about 3 times the cost of a traditional server. You have to virtualize. The only way of getting efficiency is going to be to virtualize that server and to drive efficiency. But it's not just that. It's also leading to fab capacity problems. And I think we've all seen this, and you're going to see some stats later on that actually make this, really bring this home. But I love my stat, which is my son going out and saying, I need to buy 32 gig DIMM for my gaming PC, and it's double the cost that it was just 6 months ago. So I prefer that stat than any other one. And then the last is data provenance. People are concerned and should be concerned about where is their data going, how are they keeping control of it, and how are they managing it. So we'd love to go to, I'd love to kind of go to, kind of the answers from the question that we kind of posted earlier. We asked you, my company talks a lot about AI, but my infrastructure, am I ready for GPUs? Is it playing catch up? Or is it still a question mark? We're still trying to figure out capacity, GPU, cost, type. Surprise, surprise, everybody's in that last bucket. And we've got to actually move quickly. And this is where I say the opportunity is to virtualize again. It's to bring GPUs into the mainstream, bring AI processing and capability. And as we do that, let's look at how do we secure our enterprise, protect from threats, and make sure that we deliver the accelerated path to production that we actually talked about in Last Explore. So those are the big drivers for our direction overall. And AI is going to shape how you build your data center infrastructure. And your data center infrastructure, you've got to look at how do I manage those workloads and build sovereign workloads and sovereign control of my data and my environments. The second is cybersecurity. No longer satisfactory to just build perimeter level security. You've got to build it in at the application level, at the service level, at the container level. You've got to build continuous security into your environment. The third is focus on cost. Always been the case. I like to say virtualization is cool again. That's where the market is. If we do that, we will gain the efficiency, we will get the capital savings that we need. And then lastly, look at your operations and look at how do you deliver operations in an agile, fast way. The reason why we built an entire Kubernetes platform in for you is so that you can deliver a GitOps-led management and delivery of applications, delivering at the speed of the application developer. But more importantly, the ability for that application developer to update, to secure, to patch environments in a very dynamic way because of the way that we deliver applications into production. So all of that is the reason for VMware Cloud Foundation. And, I'm really thrilled to announce our next release of VMware Cloud Foundation. But it's based first on 9.0. We released it back in June 2025, so not even 12 months out. With more than 2,000 customer deployments, 19 million cores. This is now growing at a massively accelerated pace. And this is the fastest VMware Cloud Foundation deployments we've ever seen. So we're really on a very good trajectory there. We're working with all of you as customers. I know many of you kind of wait until this release, the 9.1 release. Don't wait any longer. 9.1 has the capabilities you need. It has the security posture you need. It has the AI readiness that you need. And it has the native Kubernetes capability, the VKS capability that you need as well. So an interesting stat, though, as we look at AI and the implications of AI, we went out, just like we did last year, and we did this external survey through a third party called the Private Cloud Outlook Study. And this is a preview of the 2026 data. And we asked customers, where do you choose, kind of to run your AI and your production AI workloads? And 56% of them want to run their inferencing workload, which is where really the volume of work is going to be, not the training, because none of us do training of models. We're all about using a model and using it to actually build and deliver value for our customers and for our companies. But 56% of those are preferred on the private cloud. I think the main reason for that is data sovereignty, data governance, and more importantly, as you lead to agentic AI, you have to interact with the existing applications that you have. So all of that we deliver in VMware Cloud Foundation 9.1. And, this was a huge effort. Again, we're on a kind of 9-10 month release schedule. We're going to keep that cadence, keep innovating for you. But it is all about innovation. But rather than hear from me, why don't we listen to some of the customers who were beta testers of 9.1? We did a large scale beta testing. So let's hear from those customers now.
The main thing I have seen in the difference in the 9.1, and this is really very future ready and definitely can support our future AI roadmap within the Vodafone Idea Limited.
The private AI portion is something we're super excited about. We did an early pilot, and now I think the business question for us is how do we scale that up? Naturally, being a VCF customer and with private AI being included, it's only natural that we would consider just adding GPUs to our existing clusters.
Oh, wow. I'm most excited about the SQL database as a service. It's going to allow me to really get away from having to manage a Windows VM and be able to just manage SQL. That I'm really excited about learning more about that, seeing that, and being able to try to implement it into my organization. The major challenge that we currently have is being able to get metrics and alerts or logs in real time. Being able to see real-time observability is going to be able to help troubleshoot issues a lot faster.
How we scale different AI initiatives. We're like every other business, I'm sure the second that you have one semi-successful AI objective, the business starts going, cool, can we do this there? Can we do that here?
So this is very interesting in 9.1. Memory tiering is a new features and capability. We are in the phase of modernization of the applications, but definitely we are going to enable these features and we'll start getting this benefit. And definitely this will going to optimize my infrastructure and the memory cost also.
If it's about cost savings in your environment, the NVMe tiering might be great. If it's about turning on security services, that might be a good route. If you're a very container-first organization, maybe just knowing that you can start deploying containers at scale with this platform.
I would tell my peers to really look at the NVMe memory tiering. It's going to allow for really optimizing on the hardware that you currently have.
VCF 9.1 advanced, I would say that is a zero-touch operation where I can optimize my resources also. Second thing is a private cloud, AI private cloud ready, so that I can leverage my AI journey, whatever is going to implement in the Vodafone Idea, that can be implemented here using the VCF 9.1. And it has the better security postures, which help me to meet the compliance from the security perspective. That's it.
So cool. So, just really impressive. And you kind of hear from the customers themselves, you'd Vodafone, you'd Mary Washington Healthcare, you'd New Belgium Brewing. These are not small companies. These are companies like you, like your businesses, deploying 9.1 and deploying at scale. And, like we've seen in the past for other major releases, the .1 release is the one that usually people adopt in massive numbers. And that's what we're expecting. And that's what we're already seeing. So thrilled to see it. But let's jump in a little more into what is in 9.1. As I say, I love these times because they are all about innovation. The key of 9.1 is to deliver infrastructure for your operation, basically your operations at scale. How do we help you optimize infrastructure, make it as cost effective as possible? The second is delivering your application delivery at scale. If you look at sort of agentic AI applications, you look at the ability to do VMs and container-based applications, you want to be able to do GitOps level delivery of applications. All of that is built into the vSphere platform and the VCF platform. This is not the vSphere of old with just VMs and templates. This is a full cloud provisioning environment that can deliver anything, your modern applications, your AI applications, and your VM-based applications. And then importantly, the third part is cyber resilience. How do we build protection, secure protection of your environment, but also the ability to not just protect the runtime, but actually recover from any cyber threats that may happen and be able to bring back your application and be able to undo anything that could have happened to that environment. And of course, we keep this as an open ecosystem and an open platform. So we have a ton of features going into it. And, you can see a kind of a plot here of all of the features that we have built. And I'll just pull out a few that I'm really excited with. If you think about application delivery, there's some really important things that you need to deliver. Wouldn't it be nice if I actually had an object storage available? Oh, we do. We built it into vSAN. A perfect distributed storage architecture. It's perfect for object store. You now can deliver the block-based storage, the file-based storage, and the object storage that you need. How about databases? I want to not just deliver containers and applications and VMs as a service and give out OS images. I actually want to be able to go and build new blueprints, but beyond blueprints, I'd like to deliver databases as a service. We've extended past the Postgres database that we support. We've extended it to SQL Server. We already have support for MySQL, and we're continuing to deliver more databases as a service. So you can actually just take it. You'll get the updates, the configuration management, the patch management for those databases, all delivered by us, all in an automated way, bringing more control and more security to your environment. You look over on the infrastructure provisioning, I'm really pleased with the elastic provisioning. I was actually asked by a customer here in Munich the other day, how do I do zero-touch provisioning? I'd like to be able to kind of point at a server and be able to full image that server and bring it up and do it at scale and do that for everyone. Very useful for edge, but also useful in the data center. So we brought in a new capability called ZTP into this release. And then something that many people are asking for. They love our live patching, but live patching had to be enabled with TPM-enabled hosts. And that means that you can do secure boot and you can protect your environment. You can maintain your security of your environment and get all the benefits of live patching in case there are any critical fixes you need to get in. No more maintenance mode for applying those patches. They're automatically applied for your entire infrastructure. You're protected when you're on VCF. Also on the infrastructure side of things, we actually have done a number of enhancements. Direct Path IO, AMD, we actually support GPUs. Of course, we've got NVIDIA GPUs, we've got Intel GPUs, but we also support now the latest AMD GPUs with something called Enhanced Direct Path IO. And this means that you can treat it like a virtual device. That's incredibly powerful. EVPN, you're going to hear us, talk about this, but you're going to hear from a partner today. You're going to hear from Arista. We've also got Cisco and Sonic supported as well. But you're going to hear about this where we actually play really well with the L2 fabric based on, our L3 fabric able to work with the L2 fabric well. And that means that we can actually get, over time, you're going to see us be able to deliver a virtualized network environment, a VPC environment without edge nodes. VKS, so much better support for Kubernetes-based infrastructure. So have a look at that. And if you're not deploying with VKS today, you should deploy with it. I think it's the easiest path to production Kubernetes. And you can go and compare it to anything else you have. You're going to find that. And then lastly, our integration, I mentioned our ransomware integration. We deliver that, of course, with our own Carbon Black, but we also now deliver it with a third-party integration through CrowdStrike, because CrowdStrike is one of the most commonly used EDR tools out there. So with that, why don't we go to kind of some of the key outcomes that you deliver, right? Better cost of ownership for you, better storage cost of ownership, because we've deduplication built into this release. You're able to reduce your costs from a runtime. This is a third-party study that it showed if you could actually deliver one platform for your VMs and containers, you can save up to 46% on your total cost of ownership. And of course, because of our ability to do what I like to call application level security, which is really lateral security. It's how do you protect application to application and all of the interfaces in between. That can actually lead to more than a 40% reduction in risk reduction. So significant capabilities that we have. And, that's, going right back to the AI side, that doesn't even take into consideration the fact that we can actually deliver AI applications with zero downtime. So infrastructure teams can manage infrastructure. Application teams can do what they always did with VMware, continue to run with VMware with zero downtime, and just infrastructure teams, they don't need to worry about that infrastructure. It's always running, it's always on, and the infrastructure team can actually drive cost out of that infrastructure, can virtualize it, can make sure it is security maintained, and application teams get all the value of a continuous running cloud platform. So with that, why don't we go to back to you, I think, Prashant.
Thank you, Paul. That was a really good overview on the why and the what, and what are some of the really tangible benefits that 9.1 provides to you. I'm particularly was excited by the server TCO, the storage TCO reduction, as well as getting your containers and VMs on the same platform and driving operational efficiency and lower TCO. Really exciting stuff. Now let's get into the meat. Let's tell you the how aspect with some really cool demos. Starting off with the first chapter around what are the innovations that we are driving to help you get the maximum ROI out of your existing infrastructure, every CPU, every GPU, every storage and terabyte that you own through efficient infrastructure and operations done at scale. But before we go into that, we're very keen to understand what is a day in a life of you, our cloud admins, infrastructure admins, and what are you dealing with right now? So we had the polling question around that, and we have the results now. So most of you seem to have pretty good visibility in terms of your VM spend, your cluster usage, the GPU burns. Wow, looks like all of you are already using VCF 9. But for those of you who are still struggling and are in firefighting mode, who are living dangerously without knowing how to scale your operations, how to manage your infrastructure efficiently, we've got the right set of innovations for you in 9.1. And to talk all about that, I'm going to hand it over to Ken, who leads our core infrastructure technical marketing, to deep dive into this with some really cool demo. So with that, over to you, Ken.
Thank you, Prashant. It will be my pleasure today to tell you about some of these key innovations that we have in VCF 9.1 that drive these efficient infrastructure and operations at any scale, really. Clearly a huge amount of innovation going on in this space, and we only have time to talk about a couple of things initially. So we'll look at first how we drive cost optimizations with some of the enhancements that we're introducing in 9.1, and then we'll talk about integrated systems and application delivery, and then we'll go to that demo where we can make that all real for you as well. But first, let's talk a little bit about the costs associated with infrastructure. And I don't think it's any surprise. I think everyone's aware of the reality today. Costs, particularly of memory, are skyrocketing. Things are going through the roof in terms of the costs that are associated with buying server infrastructure and doing things like refreshes. But it's not just the DRAM that's driving that cost. There's a drag effect on the rest of the infrastructure as well. So the overall costs are absolutely astronomical right now, even if you can find them, because we are finding that there is a difficulty in acquisition of this equipment as well. There is a supply shortage. It's a supply crisis across the entire infrastructure that's driving this current situation that we have. But the requirements of our customers to deploy new applications is not abating. Obviously, you still need to get out there and deploy new applications. You need to scale, and AI is not helping that when we have these ubiquitous AI projects that are underway where people need to account for that in their infrastructure. So this is the environment in which our customers, you, are now being expected to deploy new systems. Costs are through the roof, and the requests have not abated at all. So let's talk about some of the things that VCF 9.1 can help address this with. First of all, NVMe memory tiering. So with our enhanced NVMe memory tiering, the idea is that we can take lower cost devices, NVMe in this case, rather than DRAM, to act as capacity for memory overall. So by using an NVMe tier rather than putting everything into DRAM, we're seeing that customers can reduce their cost by up to 40% and beyond, depending on the pricing that is current. It's an interesting technology in that it's always on. You never have to reconfigure. You turn on NVMe memory tiering, and behind the scenes, ESX scans all the active memory pages, all the committed memory pages, to look for hot blocks, cold blocks, and very cold blocks. And what it will do is migrate those memory blocks between the DRAM and the NVMe tier, where appropriate when they get cold. And then likewise, if those pages are being requested and we need them to go hot again, it'll migrate that back up into DRAM. So we're using our memory as effectively as possible based around the costs which are driven by their consumption. We have a couple of innovations in this space as well, but you can obviously see that as we start using NVMe rather than DRAM for active memory pages, the cost associated with server refresh or even server scaling can be hugely abated. If we're talking about scaling 100 nodes in a cluster or something like that, we could potentially be looking at millions of dollars of savings associated with not having to acquire DRAM for those workloads right out of the gates. We have some interesting screens built into the tool itself that can help you assess the optimal use of memory tiering. If you have inactive memory pages, VCF will detect those and tell you that this might be a good path forward for you to be able to use NVMe rather than DRAM. And we'll show you this when we get to the demo in a couple of minutes here as well. So looking at the numbers, we can see that this is borne out. Like just based on current DRAM pricing versus NVMe memory tiering pricing, we're seeing that there is genuinely a massive savings of around 40% or up. So by using this memory tiering, we're avoiding that DRAM purchase, whether it's for a refresh or for a scale. And again, across an entire fleet refresh, this is an enormous amount of money that we can reclaim for other projects. So these architecture choices matter at the time when DRAM prices are increasing. And we can take a little closer look at what some of the results of those are when we get to that demo. But I mentioned that we're innovating in this space quite a bit. This is not just a single feature that you turn on or off. It's really a framework of features that we're deploying. And we have introduced in 9.1 enhancements in about 5 different areas. First, enhanced visibility. So in vCenter, we have dedicated UI cards that can show you the memory tiering configuration, what is using what and which locations for memory tiering, as well as built-in dashboards in VCF operations that can not just show you the global view of what's happening with your memory tiering, but also those recommendations and what-if modeling scenarios. We have performance improvements in 9.1 versus 9.0 in the double digits. First of all, in terms of the performance of our workloads, receiving less overhead associated with memory tiering, but also we are dropping the CPU consumption again by about double-digit performance enhancements. So the overall cluster performance is not impacted by using memory tiering as much. The redundancy that we're introducing is a big one. Here, if you think about traditional mirroring of NVMe devices, you would need to have a controller of some sort, and that controller would require operational management, patching, firmware, things along these lines. With 9.1, we now have a built-in software NVMe mirror in ESX itself. We simply choose the devices that we want, and ESX handles mirroring the NVMe without any operational overhead or costs associated with running that controller. The workflow configuration is improved again from 9.0. It's now a single location for doing all the NVMe operations that we need from vCenter itself. And more importantly, there's no reboot associated with it. We just simply use maintenance mode, which everyone knows and trusts at this point. And we've enhanced the profile support, so really there are no restrictions in terms of the types of workloads that you can turn on with memory tiering. You can boot anything on a host that has this memory tiering working. And again, I want to highlight all of this is delivered without any need to reconfigure the applications. You don't need to refactor your apps. You don't need to reconfigure your VMs. This all happens behind the scenes. ESX handles all of that elevator tiering up and down with a complete transparency to the application. It just works for everything. The second area that we're driving cost optimization is in storage. And with vSAN ESA, we have improved the data reduction story dramatically with VCF 9.1. We now offer global or cluster-wide vSAN ESA deduplication, a brand new compression set of algorithms, an engine for doing compression that is highly tunable as well. And of course, we have encryption across the entire stack. So we now have cluster-wide deduplication out of 4K block size, which is quite aggressive, which helps us drive this 39% TCO savings that we're seeing by using these dedupe and compression technologies. That NVMe is still something that we want to conserve wherever possible. So by deduplicating that data, we're getting all of that. So it gives us a very high effective capacity across our clusters. But the important thing that I want to reiterate is that it's not just the deduplication and not just the compression, not just the encryption. It's the fact that you can use all 3 of those technologies together at the same time with almost no impact, because that deduplication takes place behind the scenes. It's working off cycle and not interfering with the workload. So there's no performance hit. So you don't need to choose between security, performance, and space savings. You get all 3 of those things from this one set of technologies. And lastly, before we get to that demo, let's talk about scaling. Particularly when we talk about the edge, we have some logistic issues around setting up new ESX servers. You don't want to have to ship IT out with carts of servers and running trucks out there with highly skilled IT staff to set things up. With 9.1, we're introducing a zero-touch provisioning method, which helps auto-deploy systems over at the edge. So It uses vCenter as the image repository for the ESXi, ESX hosts image. So when you plug in a new server at the edge, you patch it into the network and you power it on, it'll use a secure HTTPS request to reach across the network to the vCenter, pull down that ESX image, pull down its cluster desired state configuration, pull down its networking information, and self-configure itself in situ at the edge. So this obviously drives huge amounts of efficiency in terms of scaling these devices when we start talking about scaling things up. If we don't need IT expertise at the edge and every node comes up compliant with its image, we're off to the races. So that's it. Let's make this real. Let's take a look at a demo in this case about how this is going to work within your environment. So the scenario we're going to walk through is we've received a request to deploy a new CRM application. It's AI driven. We need a cluster that has some GPUs associated with it. So we're going to go into our operations console and we're going to run a workload what if scenario. So we're going to do a planning session where we add virtual machines to a particular cluster. We call it our AI CRM project. We need to select a particular data center and a cluster that has GPUs in it that we can use. And from our vendor, we receive a certain spec of the VM types that we need. And we're going to need about 90 VMs according to their specs. Start date in June, and we run that scenario against this GPU-enabled cluster, and we see that we are not going to be able to fit that environment. We're out of memory, and we're out of disk space, or we will be very soon, and this is just going to exacerbate the problem. So we go to take a look at our assessment within operations and see what the situation is. Our memory is running out already with a very steep cliff, and we are definitely not going to have space after that. And disk space is a little bit better, but still not good. So we now need to go and see how we can use these technologies to improve that situation. Looking at our inventory and operations, we can see we have 900 terabytes. We've used 2/3 of that, and that's why we're running out of space. So let's now go over to our vCenter and enable global deduplication. So we go to the vSAN services, and you'll be able to see very quickly here that, yes, compression is turned on. It's a cluster-wide default, but deduplication is disabled. To turn it on, we simply click on the edit to enable the service, and it's very, very easy to hit that one slider, and deduplication will begin taking place behind the scenes, as I mentioned, at a 4K block size across that entire vSAN cluster. But this is CRM data. We want to keep that pretty confidential. So we're also going to encrypt the entire vSAN cluster because we have a key provider already set up. So we apply that, and now that data store is deduplicating behind the scenes. It's encrypting. Everything is good. You can see that the services are now enabled across the board. So if we go back to operations and look at our inventory after the fact, after this has completed its tasks, we've freed up over 500 terabytes, and we now have sufficient disk space left. But let's also take a look at memory, because that was a critical system. So if we assess if we optimize our cluster for memory tiering, we can look at the resource efficiency first and see that we have about 50% of our active memory, consumed memory, is inactive. So operations is now giving us an automatic recommendation of 2 different ways that we could scale this up. We could add extra DRAM at the astronomical cost of $377,000, or we could add NVMe tiering for $56,000. So let's explore that. Let's enable that. We go back to our vCenter server, we look at our configuration, we go to memory tiering, and we want to enable that by configuring the settings for memory tiering. It's very easy again to do this. We simply turn that preferred state to true, and we select individual devices to use for our memory tiering. So we browse through the interface and find any available NVMe device that we want to use for memory tiering, select it, and that's it. We do that across all the hosts in the cluster. But let's use that software-based mirroring as well. We don't have extra controllers and things like that in this particular environment. So let's use software-based mirroring with absolutely limited expertise required on this. Select the mirror device that we want to use to mirror our memory tiering, and we are done. We can now go back. We want to encrypt the memory tiering as well, because we don't want to have this running in any way insecure. Give it a tier size of 100% of our memory is available for use for memory tiering. Hit save, apply those changes, and we are done. So it's now going to check to make sure that this is not going to impact our hosts or clusters in any particular fashion. We want to review the impact on the hosts and see that indeed it's not going to do anything to the hosts other than maintenance mode. So our configuration is now going to be remediated. It's going to set up that memory tiering behind the scenes. And if we go back to our view of this on our summary, we can see that our memory tiering is now enabled. We have almost 4 terabytes of total memory in use, of which only 2.5 is in DRAM and 1.26 is sitting on that NVMe tier instead. So dramatic savings associated with this. In operations, we can see the throughput, we can see the bandwidth that's required, we can see the latency, the global statistics for our NVMe memory tiering. And we can go back to take a look at our current state. Oops, go manage. That recommendation has been cleared. We're now good to go. Let's run that assessment one more time. Our memory now extends for a year. Our disk space extends for a year. So we're going to run that planning scenario one more time. That same one, and we can see that our AI CRM tool is now able to be deployed. We have sufficient capacity in both memory and in disk space. So by using memory tiering, we have saved about $320,000 on this one cluster alone by avoiding the costs associated with having to add extra DRAM. From a storage perspective, we've saved about $215,000 because we've now been able to compress that data and deduplicate it without having to add extra storage to it, for a total savings on one cluster alone of $536,000. So it's an enormous amount of savings, and thank you for watching our demo today. Appreciate it.
That is awesome. Thank you, Ken. So this was smooth, man. You're like a drummer who can also sing. It's like went smooth. It's a really good job there. So you could see these are really compelling numbers, right? And tangible benefits, and really showcase the power of software innovation to drive your hardware efficiency to a large extent. So we talked about server efficiency and server cost reduction, storage efficiency and storage cost reduction. Some of you may be like, what about networking? Come at the right place here. So here we are to talk about, as AI gets to be really crucial and you have to scale your production AI network, how do you think about networking and networking architecture? And to do that, I'm really excited to welcome Jeff Raymond from Arista, who is the VP and GM of Product Management and Services at Arista. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Prashant. It's great to be here. Excited to be part of the VCF 9.1 launch.
Awesome. Hey, Jeff, so you heard us talking about the private cloud momentum and how majority of the organizations, around 56%, are choosing the on-prem data center private cloud environment to run their production and AI inference workload. So I think we need to rethink about networking architecture and how the networking has to be built. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's really exciting time for all of the parts of the infrastructure, but in particular for the network. The network is the enabler for AI. And when we think about AI for inference, we're really thinking about that front-end network, the typical data center network. And of course, when you think about what's changed with AI, a lot of the stuff that we would do and build and design into networking is always it's remaining tried and true. It must be available, must be automated, must be easy to use, must have multi-tenancy. But really where the AI inference comes in and affects the front end is it really must be high bandwidth. High bandwidth, lossless, and needs more critical observability because there's a lot more tuning. If you think about the network's job, it's really to orchestrate all of those various agents and chat sessions that are going on and provide a fast response time. So we can't have any loss, must be high bandwidth. And that's really just on the front end. That's connecting the CPUs to the users. And on the back end, there's a whole set of design changes that are going on where you're connecting the GPUs for other training type experiences and workflows. So on the back end, you're thinking about scale out. How do you connect these GPUs? Scale up within a rack, scale across. How do you connect them across sites? And really, this is putting a lot of pressure on the networking industry to have that higher bandwidth, and it's forcing new cooling technologies, new optics technologies, new efficiency technologies for like load balancing type of mechanisms. All that is what's going on the network today.
That's awesome. So quite a few things that you need to rethink when it comes to network and the key requirements, right? So let's double click into our partnership here, right? And EVPN, for example, right? So we've had a very long standing partnership. with open standards, frankly, Broadcom, VMware, and Arista, right? And EVPN is one of these open standard technology that really helps simplify networking and network operations. And now with Arista integration with VCF, why is that the right technology for our customers, and what does that solution provide to our customers?
Well, Prashant, I think you said it right. It's all about openness, and openness is how we really design networks today, whether it's the protocols we use, the designs that we build, the APIs that we write to. All of this is really about how do you provide interoperability, and EVPN is one of the classic technologies today that really allows that interoperability, that openness. It's available for a multi-tenant use case. You think about it in terms of being able to provide a construct for separating tenants across layer 2 and layer 3 boundaries, either within the data center or across data centers. And it allows a customer to build common policy. And so that separation of tenants can provide application separation, and including in today's AI enabled world. And so what I'm really excited about with this announcement is now we bring this across virtual and physical networks. So the best of breed type of integrations that we can have between the VMware VCF, the Arista underlay fabric, and now we can use EVPN to provide that policy, that separation across those tenants.
That's awesome. So, and I think open standards truly brings this together, right? So we can interoperate between the physical fabric and the virtual fabric. Now, we've had a lot of joint mutual customers. So how should our mutual customers think about this partnership and the benefit to them?
Well, for those of you that don't know, that Arista and VMware for many years have had a strong partnership, very deep partnership. As a matter of fact, we were both contributors to the original VXLAN specification in 2014. And we've had a lot of other integration solutions over the years. And so now, as we think about how we bring this to market, it's really about those joint customers. How do they adopt, how do maybe a VMware customer adopt EVPN, leveraging the Arista fabric? Arista has been building out our EVPN stack with our EOS software for the last decade, and it's very commonly deployed. Now we can have that leverage that open standards approach to provide that integration of that policy. And this is going to be very exciting for our joint customers, because now they can really move forward without having to work through multiple solutions.
Absolutely. Hey, this is awesome. I feel this is a game changer as customers think about how to scale networking for the AI era. So Jeff, thanks a lot for being part of this. Thank you for your partnership, and looking forward to this coming into the market. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you saw this amazing innovation around networking, right? We talked about compute, storage, networking, all the things to help you drive efficient infrastructure at scale and operations at scale with that improved visibility that you need. Now, let's shift gear and talk about all things applications. Now, when we introduced VCF 9, we made that a single unified platform for you to run your VMs, your containers, and AI workloads on the same platform at scale with the best possible TCO. And you saw the numbers, 46 to 50% better TCO than the siloed or running containers on bare metal. We didn't stop here, right? As AI becomes more and more prevalent and production, you need a lot more set of platform services. You need faster provisioning done at scale, and you need extended database services and security services needed to run these at scale. And to talk all about that, we have our Chief Technologist, Sabina. But before I pass it over to you, Sabina, I want to talk about the polling that we asked, right? So we asked you folks in terms of your state of your Kubernetes AI workloads and VMs running on a single platform and where you are. And no surprises there. Quite a few of you are in the legacy gravity, where you have these, not only the tool chain sprawl, but also your VMs and your containers and your AI workloads all in siloed islands, with really having difficulty in terms of visibility, in terms of scaling, in terms of provisioning. So you come at the right place here to help you simplify provisioning, managing your container, your AI workloads, and your VMs on the same platform, and providing all of these services. To take a deeper look into this, I'm going to pass it over to Sabina, our Chief Technologist at VCF. Sabina, take it away.
Thank you, Prashant. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for the Belgian flags that you threw on earlier. Let's get started with this. You heard from Ken about infrastructure at scale and how important that is. Now we're going to get a little bit more into the application space, the people that we build this infrastructure for. It becomes incredibly important to think about infrastructure as a way to serve this continuously changing application layer. So what we're going to cover today, again, our payload is huge. However, we only have that much time. So we're going to talk about a few things. Platform services for modern and AI apps. And how do you get continuous operations and delivery? We're going to round it up with something a little bit more fun, a demo. Let's see how well that goes. Let's start with the problem statement. A lot of you, and especially this is a practitioner audience, a lot of you have gotten to that point of platform engineering maturity. You have container clusters running, your enterprise is running some degree of Kubernetes clusters, but the problem is you're still doing this incredibly specialized. Yeah, we want to call them snowflake clusters. You're setting up a lot of things that are manual. You have more than 15 elements in your Kubernetes environment. That doesn't make it particularly easy to lifecycle, to secure, to automate. It becomes a lot of manual work throughout all of this. Where the solution is, and where VCF 9 was built, was around this simple idea. Define what you need, and the platform takes care of the rest. Developers need to get self-service access to the workloads that they need. For example, we built VKS directly into the platform. You had VM service for the longest time. We came out of virtualization a long time ago. You get now VMs and containers side by side, out of the box, and now you can add a lot of new services. We recently released Argo CD. We talked about it in Explore last year about how you do that entire CI/CD pipeline with VCF integrated as part of all of that. I mentioned services. One of the first services that I want to bring out, and I know there's a lot of excitement around this, is S3 object storage. This is made possible because vSAN is part of our platform. It's a mature storage environment, and because of all of the progress we made with our extended storage architecture, we're able to deliver S3 native object storage as part of the platform. Now, a little bit of grounding. Maybe not all of you are familiar with this. Why is object storage important? It's how you store a lot of unstructured data, whether it's images, videos, blogs, trainings. Again, I can go on. But all of this is accessed through an HTTP API rather than more traditional storage, which is a file path or a block device. S3 is the de facto standard when you want to access through API, where every new data pipeline works this way. This is multi-tenant and multi-service for developers. Container as a service, this is an interesting one because you're going to ask, okay, but you already told me that you have containers native in the platform. What's one container as a service going to do for me? You have these situations where maybe alongside all of your VMs, you want to bring up one container. Not the entire environment, not the whole zoo, just one. This is exactly where this plays a very, very important role. And by the way, container as a service was available before as part of vSphere pods, and you had to kind of pull it through a CLI or an API call. Now it's native. You can call it. You have a GUI. You can play with it, and we're going to show you that in the demo in a few minutes. Let's switch gears. I can't earn my keep if I don't talk a little bit about AI. The demo is going to be all about this, but let's talk a little bit about AI visibility. We've invested a lot, all of infrastructure has invested a lot in how you do AI visibility, infrastructure visibility and observability, which meant how much memory, storage, whatever am I consuming, how is it in use, how many IOPS, whatever. AI doesn't quite care about that. When you're troubleshooting your AI model, that's not the first question you're going to ask. You're going to have questions like, how many tokens? How is my model running? Are they secure? And so on, which means you need to start looking at how does my AI running in terms of KV cache utilization and many other metrics that are, again, very AI specific. Finding the bottleneck becomes both an infrastructure and an AI model challenge now. One more thing. You might have heard about our DSM, our data services manager. And we've supported other databases in the past, Postgres and so on. One of the things that we are announcing today is support for Microsoft SQL Server Database. This delivered, again, as a service. Microsoft SQL has been, for the longest time, the workhorse of databases in the majority of enterprises. You're in financial services, you're in HR, you're in healthcare, you probably are running Microsoft SQL. Not everybody, but it's just out there. Now, the ability to lifecycle, patch, manage, have it all integrated as part of your modern private cloud becomes a key priority. So that's what we're announcing today on this. Now let's switch gears. Features and slides are great. Let's look at it in action. The AI sandboxing demo is essentially how you go from, I'm an infrastructure engineer, I'm supposed to deliver this infrastructure for my AI developers, and how can they easily interact with something I've captured for them, something that's easily guardrailed. So let's switch over and take a look at what that demo's like. We're going to start in our little sandbox environment. We're going to start as usual. It's a live demo, so we're going to play a little bit with it, and it's inevitably going to cause a little bit of drama. And we're live. In our AI sandbox environment, inevitably, you're going to have some challenges, and this is exactly what we prepped for. We want to build a self-service environment for developers to be able to pull what they need when they need it. We're going to start in our VCF automation. If you remember, at the launch of VCF 9, we talked quite a bit about the fact that you have 2 places that you want to manage VCF from. As you deliver services, go to VCFA. As you troubleshoot, get insights, go into VCFO. So for this, we're going to log in, use your LDAP, and so on. We're going to skip through some steps as far as creating this namespace. I've already created. You already have it here. We already have 9 virtual machines running. Perfect. What are they like? Well, we've also provisioned some GPUs for these, and obviously we're going to do something akin to AI for this. I want to introduce a new concept. I want to introduce the concept of a VM group. When you're doing infrastructure at scale, and to Ken's point earlier, you need to be able to apply the right operations at the right time, and you can't go one VM, one container at a time. You need to be able to do this, again, at scale. So VM groups are a new concept in 9.1 that allow you to do this batch set of operations. For example, a power off operation across my entire cluster. I'm going to introduce the concept of a namespace capture. In order to do a namespace capture, I'm going to need to first be able to power all these off and capture them as they are. I'm confirming. Let's take a look. Great. I can now confirm the fact that all my VMs are off. Back into my overview, I now have an opportunity to go up here and just capture this as a blueprint. What's happening now is we're going through a series of checks. Is this okay? Is my storage as it should be? Is my networking environment as it should be? Everything is exactly, again, double checked before it goes into this capture. It needs to be reliable for when my developers start leveraging this. Now, we're going to go through the usual steps as we capture it, right? We're going to have to name it, but let me pause a little bit here. We're going to introduce yet another new thing, a content library. The content library helps you leverage the resources that are very specific to this either tenant, service, or namespace. So you're able to slim it down to only the user groups that will end up using this library. You don't have to spread it all across your infrastructure anymore. So if you have multiple projects, multiple tenants, these content libraries can stay siloed to where they need to be. We've gone through the steps, we've configured it. We can look at the status right now. Hey, look at our newly leveraged sales content library. What does it have in it? Kind of what we wanted to capture before. And the VM images that we've showed previously. What's my blueprint design like, right? So think about your position in the infrastructure. You as the engineer that designs this blueprint, you want to make sure that everything is in order. You want to put the right pointers in the right place. You want to put any sort of additional information. This is your place to make sure, is my namespace the way I want it to be? I can also version it, which we're going to do now. We're going to create version 1 of this. And then we're going to go ahead and publish it. Now with this published, we're going to switch gears for a bit. We're going to have the AI developer come in, or platform engineer come in and request this, right? So we spend all of this time, about 2 minutes worth of time, just creating it for our users. But now we want to take that service catalog and request this newly created blueprint for my usage. I'm building this AI data science labs, and yay, my infrastructure engineers have created this for me. And not only that, but because of the deep integration of the product between VCFA and VCF Ops, we're able to see the cost before we go ahead and deploy this. So I'm not going to be saying I wasn't aware how much this charges to my business unit anymore. Good. I'm happy with the cost. I'm creating this. I'm going to go ahead and build and deploy. This entire view is entirely new. The reason why this is important is that you need to be able to take in, like, what's in here? How does it work? Is it powered on? I need all of the status information as I kind of go through the motions of deploying this. I get to understand my topology. Remember this view from before? I get it as well, even when I'm the platform engineer or the AI developer. I can see my entire namespace. I can interact with all of these elements. I can understand how all of this works. Cool. We have all of this set up. We're going to go back to our namespace. And we're going to see something that looks a little bit familiar. Remember our VMs that we captured, we turned off, and so on? Here they are. Exactly the same spec, exactly the way we captured it, so that we're able to push this every time the same. Again, design once, deploy every time. Now we get to that container as a service. One container is great alongside many, many VMs. It's also maybe I just want to spin up one Jupyter workspace. That's it. And then I want to kill it at the end of the day because I've definitely done what I needed to experiment. I go and I deploy this one container. And again, the settings are kind of the usual suspects. We're going to go through setting up storage for it. We're going to set up a load balancer. But what's important is this is all it takes to have a container attached to maybe an environment that was already pre-provisioned. Going through the motions, just again, it's very intuitive. You end up with all of the settings, pretty much easy to fill in. And you also have the YAML if you want to capture this for a future state or for a future configuration. Super. We go ahead, we create that container image once we're happy with it. In this case, we've deployed nginx. This is now easy to launch. It's ready to go. If we'd have a bit more time, I'd actually show you the service, the fact that it's online. On the flip side, you can also just deploy a whole Kubernetes cluster. Let's say you started with your VM environment that we saw before with all of the bells and whistles that we put together. One container just wasn't enough. I now want things like lifecycle management of the whole thing. I want to be able to do multiple versions of the environment. I want to be able to be more specific about how I allocate the resources. Super. We can do a custom configuration for that. And again, all of this is how you go about configuring any number of things. We're going to set up things like autoscalers, which allow us to kind of give it a few guidelines on, okay, I want this level of power, but not that much more. I don't want to waste my GPU resources where it's not needed. So when we configure our node pools, what's going to happen is we're going to go and edit it here, and you're going to say, okay, I want to use 3 or maximum of 5 nodes. And on top of that, I'm going to give it an override, which is, yeah, I know I kind of gave you a best effort class, but what if for certain workloads, I'm willing to give you my beefiest environment, or at least my beefiest piece of hardware slice? So once we're done with that, we can, again, you can configure a lot of things as part of your Kubernetes cluster. Maybe you've done this before with us. If not, do try it out. And we're at the stage where we've kind of gone through the whole configuration. We started with a blueprint, a VM environment, and then we added one single container, kind of because it was easy and useful, but we can also deploy this Kubernetes alongside it. Again, we're getting a query on the price. How much does it cost to deploy this? It's great. And here we go. We're giving it a minute. It's available for everybody to use. One last thing. This wouldn't be a proper demo without a little bit of kubectl. Let's do a VCF cluster list. Great, it's running, it's up, it's perfect. And now let's get our nodes. It's ready, you're good to go. And last but not least, we're gonna leverage one of the existing LLM models for this. That's the whole point, right? That's why we built all of this infrastructure. So we have all of these elements up and running. At this stage, we're good to go. The AI developer is in a good state. The infrastructure has deployed the guardrails. Prashant, back to you.
Awesome. That's a great demo. You really raised the bar there, Sabina. I think Bob has a tough task ahead of him, but let's see. But before we go into Bob, let's recap, right? really a single unified platform to run your VMs, your containers, your AI workloads on the same platform. At scale, easy to provision the platform services, the data services, the storage, security services that you need to run efficiently. Now let's switch gear and talk about the choice and flexibility of the hardware infrastructure you need to run your AI workload. And I'm really excited to welcome with me here Rajesh Bhatt. Welcome, Rajesh.
Thank you, Prashant.
So Rajesh is the AMD Fellow for Virtualization Solutions, as well as the Technology Enablement for Broadcom at AMD. So it's great to have you here, Raj.
Thank you for having me here, Prashant.
So, Raj, I mean, AMD and VMware, even before the Broadcom days, goes long way back, right? In fact, I'm not going to date myself, and hopefully not you. You go all the way back to the ESX workstation and Opteron 1 day, right? So, and we have come all the way now to this AI era where VCF with 9.1 is supporting AMD MI350 GPUs. So that's a long-standing innovation, and this should mean a lot. So it's been quite a journey there, Rajesh.
I agree. We are thrilled that what this partnership has delivered to VCF customers, and especially with what's coming now with VCF 9.1 supporting the latest MI350X and MI355 GPUs, XGPUs. Customers can run their AI workloads on VCF, and by combining these powerful GPUs with the advanced features that is built into VCF private cloud platform, enterprises can achieve exceptional performance with both their training and inference workloads. The latest capabilities are designed to accelerate performance while keeping the total cost of ownership TCO low for enterprise environments. First, the high performance GPU infrastructure, right? The MI350X series delivers a 4x generational increase in AI compute over previous AMD GPUs. With up to 10 petaflops of FP4 and FP6, the infrastructure is optimized for highly efficient training and inferencing. Second is the ability to run massive workloads. The MI350 can run models up to 520 billion parameters on a single GPU. This reduces the number of GPUs required for deployment, significantly optimizing infrastructure costs. And third is dynamic virtual hardware scaling. With VCF, customers can hot add and remove virtual hardware to the infrastructure to help customers derive the most TCO.
Yeah, this is tremendous, right? A lot of benefits. And now enterprises can use all of these cloud infrastructure benefits, all of the virtualization benefits that we have to run these AI workloads using VCF on AMD MI350 GPUs. Now, some of the few key benefits that we have, things like vSphere HA, for example, right? The high availability, where you can automatically recover these AI workloads, which means that you can get rapid failure detection and remediation. So you can pool all of these VMs and hosts into a cluster, and if something goes wrong, you can automatically restart that on a different host, right? Second, ESX Live Patch. We introduced that back in 5.2 and 9, and now it's available for the AMD MI350. And that is really, really important for non-disruptive security patches. And you've seen news on a daily basis around AI-driven security threats and all of the models that are out there, which are going to get in the hands of hackers. So you need to have your infrastructure continuously patched so it's secure and resilient. And finally, there are capabilities like storage vMotion and snapshots that helps you increase availability and drive continuous operations for AI workloads. So that's a whole lot of innovation, I would say, Raj.
I agree. And to top it off, AMD and Broadcom have collaborated to pull together an infrastructure stack on which AI workloads can be built using open standards and frameworks. We provide native support for industry standard frameworks such as PyTorch and VLLM, allowing teams to move workloads between accelerators with minimal code changes. Then there is standardized architecture through OPA, which stands for Open Platform for Enterprise AI, which helps enterprise build on vetted industry standard blueprints for RAG and generative AI. Additionally, through our partnership with Hugging Face, over 1.8 million open source models are available out of the box. Customer choice and open standards are what both Broadcom and AMD firmly stand behind.
That's awesome. So truly, I think this is an exemplary use case of using open standards, open tools, and systems to drive the choice and flexibility that our customers need. So this is really exciting. Like Broadcom and AMD working together, we are deepening our strategic relationship so our customers can run these production AI workloads on VCF with AMD MI350 GPUs. So this is great. So thank you, Raj, for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to see customers build their AI workloads on VCF 9.1 and AMD GPUs.
That's awesome. Now, this is really good, right? All things around applications and the choice and flexibility you need to run your VMs, your containers, and your AI workloads on the same platform with the flexibility and choice of your GPUs. Now, let's switch gear into a really exciting topic and one that is always top of mind for the CIOs, for the CISOs, and that is around cyber resiliency. And this is really critical, and I understood that when I said the 3 V's at the beginning of the presentation, I forgot the 1 V, which is the variety, right? It's not only the volume, the velocity, but the variety of the AI-driven threats is gone off the rocks, right? So how do you keep your infrastructure hardened and recover safely from these AI-driven threats? And this is what the section is all about. Before I hand it over to Bob, we got the results for the polling question around your security. And we asked, your company takes security seriously, I'm pretty sure, but what are some of the choices and the challenges that you're facing? And it's no wonder that quite a few of you, a majority of you, have good policies and access controls in place, but it's a constant chase, which is very, very understandable in this AI-driven threat. So to help you take a deeper look at all of the 9.1 innovation to harden your infrastructure, provide all of the security services, and help you rapidly recover from these threats, I'm going to pass it over to our security resident expert, Bob Plankers. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you, Prashant. Pardon me, I will feel left out if I don't talk about AI in some way too. And so as a security guy, though, I'm going to twist it a little bit because AI, there's a whole class of organizations out there that really have doubled down on their AI use. They're one of the premier users of AI. They use it for all their workflows, and they're criminals. They're the threat actors. They use AI to drive attacks. They use AI to customize malware for individual targets. They use AI to find vulnerabilities and then exploit them. And this is trouble on a number of fronts, obviously, but the patching, we've been talking about patching, the velocity of patching, the volume of patching. The way to get rid of a vulnerability is to patch it out of your environment. And so we're starting to see this. The volume of patching goes up as announcements are made, vulnerabilities are found. And the velocity of patching, the need to get some of these vulnerabilities are serious. We've seen some of that in the last few weeks, in fact. And I'm talking not about VCF specifically, but all software everywhere. And so being able to protect against that, protect against these threats is really important. And so what do? Well, we've heard about live patching. I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end of my section here. And how we go about dealing with the velocity problem there and the volume problem there. But AI researchers, AI security researchers are also telling us that all the old ways are still valid. The old ways of defense in depth, using good access control, least privilege, isolation, identity management, and MFA with identity federation. And you can see this. We call this defense in depth, having different layers in the stack to protect and to detect as well. And so you see this hardened infrastructure. I've named a number of things there. Even inside of ESX, the hypervisor itself, we've got layers where the guest operating system has a virtual machine monitor, which doesn't have any privileges anymore. It's got a sandbox around it, mandatory access controls that is always watching to see if the VM does something it shouldn't, and then it gets it, and then, memory protections, EDR for ESX now. Lots of stuff in 9.1 that we don't have time for right now, but we've got blogs on it. We've got all kinds of material on it that have been published this morning. We go up and I guess out a ring in this graphic here, and that's advanced security. And what do we mean by advanced security? Well, that's vDefend, the VMware vDefend tools. And vDefend is the premier way to defend, to secure workloads and the infrastructure that runs them. And it's not just about detecting, well, it's wonderful at detecting threats and then containing them automatically, but it's not just signature based. So a lot of those tools are signature based, but to be signature based, you have to have seen it before. And with AI and threat actors customizing malware, customizing attacks, that's really hard. And so it does behavioral analysis too. So it detects and contains any shenanigans going on in your network there. And then what happens if something does actually occur, an incident does occur? Well, we've got tools for that as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about cyber recovery. It's part of our advanced cyber compliance add-on for VCF. It's a toolkit. This ACC is a toolkit. And I'll talk about a couple other things too with it in a minute. But cyber recovery, built to be able to help you restore your entire environment and clean malware off of it and do so in a rapid fashion. In 9.1 here, we've introduced the ability to have all of the clean room. So I'll give you a demo here in just a second and show you how this works. But there's a clean room. There's a staging environment where you analyze the workloads as you're restoring them to see malware, vulnerabilities, and then be able to remediate those. And the clean room is all on premises now. That's really nice. The other thing these tools are built for automation and day-to-day operations, automating those, like being able to, when you deploy a new workload, being able to automatically add it to a recovery plan, for example, so no workload is left behind. And then when you can practice restoring to build familiarity. It uses the network isolation that's built into the platform itself to create like a network bubble where all the workloads can exist and you can test them out and they can talk to each other, but they're in a different world. They're not touching your production environment. They're not interfering. And so you build familiarity with the tools. And that's really important because an actual incident is stressful. And you don't want to worry about how to work your tools. You don't want to worry about whether it's going to restore correctly or not. You're going to know because you've tried it. And to that end, familiarity brings me to the second point. What we've added to VCF 9.1 and the cyber recovery features is the ability to plug in CrowdStrike as an EDR tool as part of that cleaning mechanism, that clean room. And so you can use tools that are familiar to you already. So I want to take a look at, I'll give you a demo of the actual thing here. There we go. I'm learning how to use a Macintosh. So this is the protection and recovery thing. We can go to ransomware recovery. It's simple. This is designed to be simple. It's designed because you've got enough to worry about when you're restoring. I should also point out that I said we can restore entire environments, but we can restore workloads too, little ones, onesies, twosies. And this is really important. You think about patch velocity and volume, that's also for workloads. Patching velocity, patching volume is a global problem with all software. It's not just VCF. And so, you can de-risk a lot of that stuff too. So here, I'll show you how this works. We can go into the recovery plan. We've got a demo recovery plan conveniently here. And then we can go to ransomware recovery. We've backed up 2 VMs, just something's happened to them, whatever, we need them back. And so I'll pick I want to start the ransomware recovery. It is a wizard. It's the guided workflow. And so I can select one of these, and then we can hit validate, and it opens. It's very DVR-like here. And you can see it's got a change rate and entropy. We can use it to pick a particular point here. We'll pick the one right before where we're at, because ostensibly there's something wrong with the one where we're at. We'll go ahead and start it in the isolated clean room. So this is where we examine it and see what's wrong with it. Is it malware, whatever? So we can go ahead and we can refresh this, and then we can open the clean room. Oh, not ready quite yet. Oh, there we go. Okay. And we can go ahead and open this. It's installing the security sensor. This is using Carbon Black. That's the default here. But like I said, you can plug in CrowdStrike if you're a CrowdStrike customer. And then here, let me refresh this and see if it finished. All right, it's scanned it. We can look at the analysis. and look at the vulnerabilities. And so severity, this is a CVSS score, 2.5, that's not too bad, but we can drill down into this. We can take a look. We can go over to Carbon Black and actually look at the vulnerability description and all of that. You know, see what we're up against here, whether we are scared of it, whether we can restore, we can make that decision for ourselves. And then, oh, here, hang on just a second. Oh, yeah, here we go. Then what we can do, if I want to change the network isolation, I mentioned the bubble. You know, this exists in an isolated network environment, but maybe I don't want it to be isolated. Maybe I need somebody else to log in to check it out. Hey, is this going to work? You know, is it messed up? Did we restore the right one? Whatever, you know. And so we can pick an internal network and change the type of network isolation. We can also, oops, hang on just a second. We can also try a different snapshot. You know, maybe this isn't one that we like. And so I can go looking for a different one. We've got a rate of change here. We can see the rate of change. So ransomware, for example, has a high rate of change because it's encrypting things, right? You know, so those are clues. You know, there's no, unfortunately, security, sometimes there's really no certainty. It's all a little variable, but these are clues to help with that sort of thing. And so we can pick a different one here. I'm just going to cancel out of this. I'll say that we're comfortable with what we've got, and we'll go ahead and complete the validation here. So it'll power it off. We'll say, hey, all is good. And what I want to do now is, now that it's clean, I want to move it back to the production environment. I want this to go back to where it came from and go back into production. And so I tell it to go back there, you know, where the isolated clean room is empty. We're done looking at that. We'll go back over here and we'll select this, and we can hit recover. And recover turns it back on, fires it back up in the main environment. And so done. You know, that was easy. And here, if I just want to create, you don't have to validate. Maybe I did something to this Linux VM and I know what I did and I made a mistake. Whatever, it happens, you know, and we learn from it. But recover, I can just recover it straight up as well. And so that's really nice. And we'll look at the summary. 2 recovered VMs and all is good. So it's meant to be simple. It's meant to be easy to use at scale, and whatever scale you want. So I'm going to go back here. Let's see if I can master the Macintosh. There we go. I tell you, here we go. Excellent. I mentioned that ACC is a toolkit, right? And part of that toolkit is also something that we call continuous compliance enforcement, security posture management. The idea that you can pick a regulatory compliance baseline, you can pick our security configuration guide, for example, and have it automatically enforce that, check it continuously for what state your environment is. And you can remediate it if it's set differently, or if there's some drift there. And, you know, we talk about zero trust all the time in the industry. This to me is zero trust. The idea, not that you can't trust VCF, but that when you've got something like this, you don't have to. You've got data that replaces that trust. You don't have to take it on faith that the running system is configured the way you think it's configured. You've got a report from a few minutes ago that says that. And then hopefully in a few minutes, you've got an identical report with a different timestamp. But if something should change, you get an alert. And you can drill down in VCF operations. You can drill down into the audit trail. You can see exactly what changed, and you can see who changed it. And then you can go figure out, hey, is this some sort of breach in progress? Is it a misguided sysadmin? Is it somebody doing troubleshooting and they forgot to put it back the way they found it? Whatever. But information is power, and you want to get ahead of this stuff. That's really important. I want to get back to patching. We've talked about patching here. We've had mention of it throughout the program here. And it's exciting, the ability to do this live patching, what I'm calling zero downtime patching. The ability to update parts of components, parts of ESX, parts of now vCenter as well. And without having to restart the whole thing, take big outages, we can make those outages as small as they need to be or as large as they need to be, but we can be selective about that. And we introduced ESX live patching in ESX 8 Update 1, vSphere 8 Update 1, Update 3, I'm sorry. And the scope of it was pretty narrow then. 9.0, it improved that scope quite a bit, but now in 9.0 improved that scope quite a bit. 9.1 all ESX hosts can partake in live patching, including those that have trusted platform modules. So that's really good. The other thing is that vCenter, like I mentioned, vCenter can do this as well. And we call that quick patching. The idea that you can apply this stuff, it helps de-risk it, it helps deal with organizational. The problem is often not applying it necessarily. It's perceived risk, it's organizational change control, and we're really hoping that this will help with that. We really think it will. That doesn't get rid of vMotion though. vMotion is still an important thing. It's really nice that we can patch ESX and not have to clear off all the workloads. And I should actually mention, I forgot to mention that 80%, all security is different, all vulnerabilities are different, but our goal is that for live patching, these live patching purposes, 80% of what we would ship as a critical patch is live patchable. So we'll see. We'll see if the threat actors cooperate with that. Anyhow, vMotion. So vMotion, we introduced that in 2005. It was the original resilience feature in VMware products. And just like I'm not the same person I was 21 years ago, vMotion isn't either. Well, it's not a person, but you get what I'm saying. It's updated. It's every release, it gets better. And our goal is to have it be invisible. We don't want workloads to know that they've moved. And so what did we do in 9.1? Well, we introduced it to the Intel Quick Assist technology. These are accelerators that are in the Intel Xeon server platforms, and they offload things like encryption. They do encryption fast. And so when we let it do the encryption, and it's seamless, it'll use it if it's available, the vMotion goes 70% faster. That's awesome. I'll take that. That's really nice. And then DRS, Distributed Resource Scheduler. That's the cluster orchestrator that keeps workloads performing well, schedules maintenance, all of that. We've taught it a few new tricks too. 1.6 times faster to clear off a host. Again, at scale, that's super important. You can get this stuff done faster and go back to what you were doing to start with. So a lot of cool stuff in 9.1. I think you're going to be really happy with that. We're going to show a video right now, and then, I'll give it back.
In a world of sophisticated cyber threats and stringent regulations, compliance, security, and resilience must be approached as a single, integrated system within the modern private cloud. Yet most organizations still treat them as separate problems. Different tools, different teams, different workflows. This siloed approach creates a resilience gap, a lack of end-to-end visibility, shortcomings in both detection and remediation, and the dangerous misconception that being compliant is the same as being secure. And when disaster strikes, traditional measures like immutable backups are no longer enough. Imagine the scenario. Your security team gets the alert. Ransomware detected across critical workloads. Undetected drift exposed the environment to bad actors. The attack spread laterally, and mission-critical data was encrypted. Backups may already be compromised. The organization faces penalties for non-compliance, not to mention the consequences of data loss. Escalation begins, and so does finger-pointing. To survive, enterprises must shift from a tool-centric approach to an outcome-centric design. Success isn't measured by how many tools you have, but by how quickly you recover. With VMware Advanced Cyber Compliance as an advanced service, virtual machine and container workloads running on VMware Cloud Foundation gain a hardened security architecture. You get continuous enforcement for workloads and stack components, managed from a single console. No manual audits, no blind spots, just infrastructure that stays hardened 24/7. If disaster strikes, you don't scramble to stitch point products together. You use an isolated clean room, a quarantined environment to securely power on workloads and identify pre-infection restore points. With built-in AI ML validation and automated orchestration, you recover at scale with confidence. The results speak for themselves. High-value workloads are back online in minutes. Reinfection risk is eliminated. Compliance is proven continuously, not quarterly. Don't just collect tools. Build a private cloud designed to survive. VMware Cloud Foundation. Recover faster. Stay resilient. Build cyber ready.
Wow. That was what I call around the VCF 9.1 world in less than 90 minutes. That was a lot of information, a lot of innovation packed there. So, and towards the session, we got over 300 plus questions from you folks. And that was exciting. It shows real interest and real momentum and curiosity. So thank you for those questions and keep it coming. I also saw quite a few emojis, most of which I understood, but quite a few were questionable and funny. Maybe your pets were acting on your keyboard, but that's fun. So let me just quickly recap all of the key innovations that we delivered. Number one, as hardware costs are rising, how does VCF 9.1 help you really drive efficient infrastructure operations at scale, whether it's for your compute server, storage, networking, while providing zero-touch provisioning at scale for your edge environment. Moving to the applications, how do we provide a single unified platform to run your VMs, your container, and your AI workloads with new platform services for fast deployment of your VKS cluster, database as a service, as well as security services. And finally, in this AI-driven world, how do we help you harden your infrastructure? How do we do live patching across your environment? And how do you quickly recover from your cyber threats in an efficient, automated workflow manner? So quite a few innovations. So I would really, really like to thank you for attending this awesome event. A special shout out to our VMUG members. We've had a lot of them here today on this call. Thank you to our speakers, our partners, and our awesome subject matter experts who have been answering these 300 plus questions throughout the event. A big, big thank you. This is just the beginning of the 9.1 launch. Please go to the Resource Center, take the QR code, where we have tons more information around solution guide, deeper dive demos, signing up for the hands-on labs, etc. Number two, we have a big global virtual event happening for VMUG at the end of June. So sign up for that. And we have our marquee show, VMware Explorer in Vegas at the end of August, and the Explorer on Tour in MEI and APJ. So sign up for those as soon as possible. And finally, this is a big shift in terms of how you manage, run, build, and operate your private cloud environment. So go get certified. All of the on-demand learning and your VCP and VCAP certifications will be ready in the next few days. So go get certified. So thank you again for taking the time and have a great rest of the week.